Welcome to the Bunkhouse Podcast, broadcasting from the confluence of outdoor recreation and nature connectivity. I'm your host, Josh Crumpton, founder of Spoke Hollow Outdoors and the Los Salvaje food truck. My life as a rancher, guide, foodie, and conservationist has provided the opportunity to meet some really great people. And the Bunkhouse is where we get to introduce them to you. In this episode, I'm joined by my good friend Kayla Lockhart, fly angler, hunter, mentor, conservationist, outdoorswoman, and all-around badass. In this episode, we visit with another good friend, Rebecca Jones, about West Texas, women who hunt, body waxing, killer cacti, dinosaurs, and great gear. It's going to be a good one. So, buckle up, Buttercup, and let's get this thing started. Well, here we are in the bunkhouse.
We're here.
We're doing it again. Another show, this time with Chief People Officer for Orvis.
So fancy, that title.
It is a name. It's a very, very exciting title. I don't really know what it means, but hopefully we'll find out a little bit today. Rebecca Jones, who also happens to be a good friend of mine. We've become good friends this hunting season.
We have.
Yeah, I've enjoyed our time together. And joined by co-host Kayla Lockhart.
I have replaced Davin for the time being.
Oh, did you hear that, Davin?
My drinks are extra stiff and real shitty. But, I try my best. No, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for letting me co-host for a minute.
Yeah, I guess
another perspective on your guys' chatter. I'm excited.
Yeah, the last show we were on, we said goodbye to you, and we're like, we'll see you in fall.
And here I am.
You're still here.
I'm like glue, baby. There's no getting rid of me.
So this is 3 weeks later that we're recording this, and she's still on
the same outfit.
Still in the same outfit.
Haven't changed.
And still on the ranch. Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. No,
it's worked out well.
We're all here. We all converged at the ranch for different reasons. This weekend, Kayla was out to do an event with us. You were out here. What brought you to the hill country?
I was here for a Grits women's clay shooting event.
Oh, what? That sounds way
Yeah,
cooler.
I know. It was great. And then I was here, and then I came up this way to go fishing. So it's been a shooting, fishing kind of a weekend.
Wow. I was on the wrong trip. What the heck? That sounds amazing.
You were on the wrong weekend. Yeah. That's
That's a lot of your weekends, and you've done a lot of that this season.
Yes.
Shooting and fishing, and really over the past year. Has it been a year?
Not even. I didn't start my first bird hunt until mid-September 22.
Wow.
So it's not even 8 months.
Oh, wow. So you're still hungry and enjoying it all and
very
loving
hungry.
it. Yeah.
The freezer's nearly empty.
I love
very hungry.
Wait, this is the end of season and your freezer's empty. That's because you're an upland hunter and our freezer's always empty. It's the elk hunters that have all of the meat in their freezer.
That's a good point.
They're the ones who get all of that. So I am super stoked to have you here. I'm super stoked to have you in the bunkhouse, the newly finished bunkhouse.
It's really cute.
You did it.
Yeah, you came and saw it when it was, I don't know, it was
under construction. There was somebody putting drywall in out the back there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So hunting and fishing, how did you come to hunting and fishing? That's where I'm going to start this, because I want an understanding. When I met you, it's 8 months.
Yeah.
But this has all been this was a choice and you jumped in.
Yes.
With both feet.
Yes. Absolutely. It's a good journey. I'm going to make it as quick as possible because I could probably talk about it for a few hours. Or 3 weeks. I could still be here in 3 weeks talking about this. You never know. No, but it's a good question. So I'm Australian. What? Surprise.
Yeah, I would never have guessed.
Crikey.
No.
It might get, it was crikey. That's a good one. Yeah, so the accent's getting a little diluted, so I'll try to put
for a
it
minute,
on.
I was like, she's Australian, right?
Yeah.
In the car, but yeah. I mean, we just met, sorry.
It's Australian. Yeah, so I grew up fishing. I mean, this was sort of conventional fishing, something that I did with my parents. I lived in Florida for 15 years when I got here to the USA. And so we did a lot of water sports, scuba diving, spear fishing. My husband and I would go and do sort of, just go out on the boat and go fishing. So
how long ago was that?
So this was, we only got to Dallas we moved to Texas in 2019. So for the 15 years prior to that, I was living in Miami and enjoying a water sport life that included fishing. So that's that sort of that concept, nothing new, except for the fact I don't think I'd ever even seen a fly rod. That wouldn't be too far of a stretch.
Can I
to say that.
congratulate you on deciding to leave the U.S. and join the greatest country ever, Texas?
Texas! Yep. I'm still waiting for my Texan passport to arrive. But
most of us are outlaws. We don't have them.
Yeah.
That's the secret that nobody knows.
That's it.
No,
So I mean, it ended up here in Texas, but there was sort of this giant crisis going on at the time, which was, kind of keeping us all confined to the indoors. But in all of that time, I actually switched jobs, didn't switch careers. I've always been in the people business. I actually, human resources is a part of my job that rolls up under my oversight. But I kept careers, but changed companies and industries. Wow. So I went from the beauty industry, body waxing.
Wow.
I could tell you anything you needed to know about body waxing, but that is not a conversation for today, ladies and gentlemen. But I ended up leaving that company and going to a company called Orvis, which many people will know as a fly fishing and wing shooting organization. At the end of the day, it was all about customer service, great people. So made total sense to be able to make that transition. But the interesting thing was when I joined the company, had never held a fly rod before, had never picked up a shotgun before. These were two things that were completely different, foreign from anything that I'd ever thought about. I didn't even know if I liked guns, to be honest. I wasn't sure about any of the space.
You never shot a gun?
I'd shot a handgun before.
Okay.
But that was kind of it. I mean, I lived in Miami.
Cool.
And so
we'll get to that story later.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Or maybe not.
By later, you mean never.
Yeah, on the podcast. Yeah, probably.
That's a subscription YouTube channel one.
It was pretty neat because actually the first weekend I joined Orvis, your sunglasses just fell on the floor. That's what that was.
At least there's video.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Invite me, see what happens.
That's all right. They're there.
She's just so funny.
It's live.
I'm a full body laugher.
So I joined Orvis, and the first sort of my onboarding, my first week on the job, I ended up going to one of the grounds that we have in San Donona up in New York, and was booked into a lesson, a shooting lesson up there, a Clay's lesson, and done, hooked. Hooked. It was great. I had a female instructor who spent an hour with me, and she had me breaking clays probably within sort of 10 minutes of being out there. So it was so awesome, super empowering.
What a cool, unique experience. Yeah, because not everyone gets that experience right off the bat.
Yeah.
Especially as a woman too. I'm sure you can relate. But yeah, that's really special. That's cool.
Yeah, it was neat. And so I think that was this kind of awakening to the potential of the sport, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, shooting's an Olympic sport. Mm-hmm.
It is.
To be very clear, I wasn't looking at that down the horizon, but I mean, this is a sport that's out there. It's big. It's mainstream. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was really interesting to kind of get into that side. And then, the awesome thing about Orvis is there's tons of schools. So I kind of enrolled myself in all of the schools, took full advantage. But it was interesting because by this time it's summer. And so we kind of switched lanes a little and spent a lot of my first summer there doing a lot of fishing. So by the time we met and we got introduced through, I'm already answering questions that haven't even been asked. Sorry,
I'm just going to kick back. No, this is great. This is great. I'm getting paid right now, and I'm just kicking back.
I'm just going to interview
drinking
myself.
my Topo Chico.
We met through it's funny because I was looking up, I was, trying to find something that would help my shoulder. I wanted a shirt that was really cute that had a patch on it, and looked up Shooting Shirts Texas and found, a very dear friend of ours, Amber Hayes, who owns McKenna Quinn, and just adore and love that woman so much. And so that's how I ended up getting into the upland side. It was
really? You were
her.
Looking for a shooting shirt, not for upland hunting?
Oh, I wasn't looking for upland hunting. I was looking for a shooting shirt.
With a shooting pad.
Yeah, to go to the Clays course. Yeah. I just wanted a little,
Yeah.
Little cushion for the pushing.
Cushion up there.
Yeah.
And then I went down the rabbit hole. That was kind of crazy. And then just got it's just amazing. You look at this, you look at that, you look at that, and kind of just ended up on this entire, journey and pathway that started with the dove hunt, and that's it. Starts with dove, and there's a ton of things that happen next.
TWA or stewards?
Yeah, no. So it was the TWA Women of the Land program, and they took 20 women who may or may not have picked up a shotgun before, or most of us had never done any bird hunting.
Wow.
And we went out to Albany. They paired us with great mentors. Mentorship's a huge thing, and I hope we talk about all that.
Yeah.
Paired us with mentors, put us out in a field, and good luck. No, they gave us some help, but and it was really neat to get a bird, clean a bird, eat a bird. Very exciting.
Yeah, so you cleaned your bird.
That was it.
Yeah.
And that's always been the interesting thing about the hunting that I've done. For the most part, or the very intentional programs I've done, have always tried to have been sort of as full circle as possible. And that's something I actually learned with a TWA mentored hunt that I did. They were very emphatic about whatever you harvest, you have to clean and process to a point. But you have to, you have to process it. Your dad was saying, yes, by the way.
I didn't harvest my room. So I don't need to clean
it. It was like the hunting with everything, yeah.
That was a good one. Yeah. So I know that was a lot of stuff there. But
you've done
that's how I kind of got in.
Several different female-focused outdoor hunting programs that I know of.
Yes.
And what I have noticed is, particularly shooting industry, we can talk about fishing industry, but shooting industry, there is not a lot of stuff that is developed for women, including the guns themselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you came in very intentionally seeking, gender specific education and camaraderie and community, starting with the gun you shoot.
Yeah.
And tell us about the gun you shoot, because it's really pretty.
Beautiful.
I wish it was here right now so I could
It's so pretty.
Yeah, it's
in my
pretty.
car. I can go get it.
See it. Yeah, you can see it. It is here.
Gorgeous. Yes. So very intentionally. And to be very clear, I've never had an issue hunting, shooting, fishing, anything with men. Men have been wonderful and supportive and answered every question. So this wasn't about, well, there's a lot of things I could say it wasn't about, but it was sort of really just, I did want to focus on a women's experience, definitely. And so that's been a big deal. But it started with trying to find a gun. And I'm short. You can't really tell because I'm sitting here. I'm not going to speak for you, Kayla.
I'm short.
But
I'm short. I'm just a little hobbit over here.
Short. And the first couple of, firearms that I'd been using were men's length, so 14 3/4 length of pull. I mean, I'm stretched out, really trying to get my grip on that. And I did a gun fit at an event I was at. I'm like, oh, what the heck? I'll do the gun fit. And they had sort of one of those, I can't remember what they're called.
Trigun?
Trigun. That's exactly what it was called. They fit it perfectly to me. And it was like night and day.
That's when it clicked. Yeah,
night and day. Okay. And I'm like, oh my goodness, if I can have this thing that actually fits me. And so there's a couple of manufacturers that make female specific guns. And I was connected with Siren. So Siren works with a couple of different groups, but the gun I ended up going with was a Guarini, a Caesar Guarini that was, Siren is the umbrella that kind of pulls all that together. And so I have this incredible Julia, it's a sporting clays gun. I did my entire upland season with the sporting clays gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I built some muscles carrying that thing.
Do you have plans to change that?
I'm going to get a field gun next season, which is going to be about 2 pounds lighter.
Which makes a difference.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it does.
Huge difference.
Yeah, it really does.
But anyway, I mean, so it started with that. I thought it was really important to have the right equipment and gear. And I know that's something, Josh, you feel passionately about, is like the gear. You don't have to have everything all at once, but I figured a gun that fit me.
That's a good
great
step
start.
One, yeah.
Great start. And a cute shirt with a patch on
pat,
it.
Well, no, and a shirt that fits you, because
you want
to be comfortable too, because especially for upland.
And movement in the field is key. I mean, like being not just comfortable, but like when you're upland hunting, you're walking for miles and miles, and you put all that work in for the moment of a shot that is seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. It's 15 seconds of action with lots of walking in between. Sounds exciting, right? I guess everybody's
So exciting.
You're going to walk all day for 15
true.
seconds.
Like my first upland bird experience, I just borrowed gear from a guy that I'm friends with, and it was all guys I went with. And I just remember waking up that morning and telling myself, like, you can't slow them down. You have to stay with them because we're flushing, And I just remember that fear as like, I'm smaller than them. I'm not, I borrowed gear. It was their guns, their clothes even is what I was wearing. And they're definitely a little bit bigger than me. Yeah. But I just remember just like being so like muscles I didn't even know I had were hurting. And I was just like, you have to stay with them. And I put that pressure. So I feel like I would have loved to have an experience. I've never hunted with females before.
Oh my gosh. Never. So 80% of the people I hunt with are women.
Oh man.
Which is kind of really
another woman I get to meet through Josh. I appreciate you.
See, this is it.
So
Look
great.
at us. We're gonna have to get together and start talking about some dates.
You guys are gonna hunt.
I would love that.
It's happening.
And my first hunt, I got a chucker and a quail, and I'm so grateful. But it was definitely like an exhausted. And after I got the one, I was like, okay, that was a lot of fucking work. But it was amazing. It was very rewarding by all means. And I just grew up deer hunting only so it was a different transition. But yeah, it would have been amazing to have that experience with females though.
Yeah.
Or just at least one person that understood the beginning stage.
Well, having the gun that fits and having the clothing that fits. I mean,
I was very uncomfortable.
millimeters of off, an eighth of an inch off on how the gun fits you translates into feet on where the shot placement is out in front of you. And, it seems that so much of the hunting fishing world at one point in time was just paint it pink and call it female.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's pink. That'll be great.
Pink it,
and then we're going to charge you more for it too. Yes. Pink. Pink tax is real.
Yeah. And
true.
And now it's really cool to see that the industry is evolving and changing and responding to a demand that has been there for a long time. Because women have been doing these sports for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The stories might not have been told,
but they were there.
But it's happening.
But they were there. Yeah. That's right. And it's cool. And it's cool that you on your path found these programs, including Amber, who hosts really great events.
Amazing. Yeah. No, that's it.
And you and I met on a pheasant quail hunt on like a muddy morning.
A muddy, raining morning. I think it was going to be nobody else turned up except Amber and I.
Yeah, that's true. I almost didn't turn up.
You almost did it. It was going to be Amber and I in the field.
I know.
And maybe Matthew too. Probably just could have been the three of us.
Matthew would have been
He would have been there. I know it.
Been there. But it was fun because it was like 4-wheel drive that morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
muddy. I mean, and I mean, I don't think my hip flexors have ever been that sore because it's through the grass, the mud, the wet grass,
tromping through.
And we got some ground.
We did, and I think what I think was fun about that was because it was challenging. Where were you sort of in the space? Because we just met, so you had done a dove hunt, I'd done a deer hunt, which has nothing to do with upland, of course, but I'd done that. I had been out because I think we met in November or early December. Yeah, it was one of
those.
Early December.
Yeah, so it might have even been only my second field hunt because I think we had a board meeting out at Joshua Creek Ranch, and so that was in November. And so that was really my first and then I did something in New York too, actually up at San Diego. So I'm like going through my list. Hang on. Okay, maybe it was like the third of anyway, it was early.
What'd you hunt in New York?
Pheasant.
In New York. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was a challenging hunt. I mean, it was a preserve hunt, but it was a challenging.
But it was different to any of the other ones that I'd already done because we weren't following a path. Which can happen often in preserved bird hunts. You can be following a path. And for a lot of reasons, it's part of the educational process as well. So this was kind of nice because it was that first time really starting to get off the path, literally and figuratively, right? It was difficult. And we went into the woods a little, and then we went down to a creek bed a little, and then there was topography. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's I live off the path.
Yeah. It's your zone.
I'm off the path.
You just say.
Yeah.
But we had a great lunch afterwards. It
Yes.
was really fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that brings up a whole other conversation. At some point, we
Yeah.
need to talk about the juxtaposition of hunting and the finer things in life. So I don't know where that comes
Yeah,
up.
the
but I
reward
think,
at the end of the hunt.
yeah, I think that was a really nice opening experience to sort of say, yeah, you can go and get muddy in the field, and then we're going to sit down and drink champagne and eat nice food
Yeah.
whilst overlooking
This
this
view,
incredible
yeah.
view and valley. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I like this guy.
Yes.
He knows how to do this.
I feel like when you work hard too, you appreciate it so much more too. So
Yeah.
even if you were to just jump into that finer things, it'd be good. But like, man, when you transition it that way, it's definitely way more grateful and appreciated, I guess.
Definitely.
Well, and I think the thing about hunting, and this will be interesting to get your perspective, both of you guys. One of the things about hunting is going back through the history of humanity, from my perspective, is that it's at the end of it, you're celebrating the hunt, the victory of the hunt. And at one point in time, that meant the survival of the people. Now it's not the survival of the people. Now we celebrate in a different way because we can always go to the grocery store and stay alive. But honoring the tradition, I think, is part of that celebration at the end of the hunt. And
Yeah. I do believe that everyone longs for that connection of, wherever that means to whoever, but like having that skill that you did and conquered and challenged yourself for, that's kind of what life is all about for me, at least. I feel like a lot of people relate to that, whether they do it or not. You can't help but recognize that is where we came from and what we all, evolved from. But yeah.
That's interesting. I'm going to be controversial here for a second.
I love it.
I'm really not going to be that controversial.
When it was going to come.
No,
It's
this
not
is great.
really.
This is what a real conversation is
But it
like
could
about,
be.
though.
It's why it's been a bit harder for me to take to fly fishing.
Oh,
because it's a catch and
sport.
release sport.
I mean, it's up to whoever.
So it's all about perspective and all of those sorts of things. But having treated fishing as a hunt process, so I used to do a lot of spear fishing on breath, and that's how. And we never took more than we were going to eat. I mean, that was sort of a really big deal. And then suddenly to get into fly fishing, and I'm like,
it's a different.
hang on, you want me to throw this back? No, I know how to clean it. No, I can get it ready for no, you want me to okay,
I can see that. And I would argue that I couldn't compare the two because they're not on the same projection. Whereas fly fishing to me it's a sport that helps me in a meditative way, mental health way, and that release is almost like a full circle thing. It's healing to me to release them back.
Yes.
It gives me that, like, I'm able to be a part of this, able to tie something that replicates something you eat and able to trick you to eating it. And then that release, it's like I was connected. Whereas you still get that connection, and there is that with hunting, but you're doing it more for, I guess, your goal is to kill it. That's your goal. My goal is to trick this fish to eating this fly that I tied.
Yeah.
And I want to release it so that, and I also, we could go into management and fisheries and first hunting and all of that, if you will. Whereas, there's definitely a lot more voice of advocacy for hunting and what game, I guess you could say, versus, steelhead and salmon that are dying and stuff, or wild trout, whether they're native or non-native. Like, we could go on miles down that avenue. But that's where I view the differences. And I think that you can get so much out of the two for different reasons. And so if you want to kill, I mean, why do it the hardest way? Just get some bait or conventional, but hunting is challenging too, though. So they both have the challenge that instills in you. Yeah. So it is an interesting thing that I find that's hard to have full on comparisons to, but they have similarities for sure.
Yeah. Fly fishing, the concept of catch and release, I'll say something that may or may not be, I'm going to keep more fish this summer. I'm going to eat more.
And I think that's something
You
that
heard
I
it
need to
first.
recognize too. Like, when I go home, I'll freaking have a ringer full of crappie in Minnesota, and I catch them on a fly rod because I think it's fun. I like to fight on it. I like to have my little poppers, and I enjoy casting. I love that feeling of it. And I'll keep all the crappie, and we'll do a fish fry for dinner. Like
little crappie.
Crappie.
So good. Delicious.
I love them. They're delicious. And I think at the end of the day, it all depends on what the species is. And, obviously I'm looking at the regulations and all that and what you're allowed to keep, blah,
Sure.
blah, blah, blah. But I live in Oregon. So I think that my perspective, because I fish for salmon and steelhead that are a dying species, it's harder. Even to me, I didn't touch a spay rod once last year because the, closes of rivers and all that stuff. So it's a little complicated with fish.
Yeah, it depends on where you're at and, what the resource can handle.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that goes with anything.
Yeah.
We see it with bass in Texas. Like there are places in Texas that Texas Parks and Wildlife Department is like, please keep the bass. Eat the largemouth.
Exactly.
Eat the largemouth.
That's the thing is
eat the fish. There's too many in this piece.
And when fly fishing was originally, way back history, they kept the fish. I'm not educated enough to know when that transition happened where it became solely a sport. Because
me neither.
so
that's another podcast. We have to research that.
Maybe for guides, when it became a business.
Yeah, but guides definitely are about
when it became a business. Yeah, that's big and huge. I hear that a lot. I mean, it's a renewable. I mean, it's not really a renewable resource, but it is because you take them all out, you affect all of that. It makes it a lot harder to keep going down the river.
Yeah, well,
sure, as part of it.
As a guide company, I'll say that, there's a lot of places that you go where it's like, yeah, that fish's name is Jim.
Yes.
And he lives under that rock.
He lives under that rock.
And we're going to come around and you're going to catch him right about now. Right now.
Yeah.
Nope, you missed him. You didn't set the hook. And so that's definitely part of it. And it's interesting on the Guadalupe here underneath Canyon Dam on the tail race, there are many people who are guiding down there. And I have an interesting conversation with a lot of guides for, popular, unpopular. I don't really care. This is my take. This is my opinion on it. It's a stocked fishery.
Oh.
It's stocked by the state. Now, the guides that are down there are like all catch and release. And out of respect to the people that I work with in the community, we catch and release as well. But I have people who ask me, can I go catch those fish and keep them? And I'm like, well, not on our trip. But if you want to go back down there and catch and keep fish, here are the regulations for doing it. And people get mad. The guides get mad at people. And I often have to remind them, listen, this is a stocked fishery. And part of it is stocked by GRTU, which is the local chapter of Trout Unlimited. And part of them are stocked by the state. And the state tax dollars that are going to stock those fish are being put in there specifically for people to be able to come down, enjoy the research, and take those fish home.
Yeah.
Not that we can have a business on the river.
Yeah.
That is a majority. I mean, that's why hatcheries exist, is so we can keep the fish and eat them.
Yeah, keep them and eat them. And I think that's an important thing. I think that there are many people who are like, let's not have those stocked fish go into these fisheries. Let's not do that. And that's a whole
can of worms
for another time. But the reality is that one of the outcomes of being able to keep the fish is that makes fishing a thing that helps to connect you to your food source.
Yes, I agree with that. We have been a huge disconnected with that in general in life.
Which makes you a better human, I think. Makes you a more whole human. It makes you more human, should I say. When you like, what was your first... Dove? Was dove the first thing you ate after shooting as well?
Yeah, dove was the first. Yeah, because I actually got dove. Incredibly, they're fast little critters. But got some dove, took them home, cooked them. I mean, my 5-year-old had her first dove as well, which was really exciting.
Yeah, that experience. What was that like? Sort of at a core emotional human level, did it impact you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I provided food for my family. I mean, at the most basic level.
Sounds so simple, but it's incredible though.
Yeah, being able to do that, it was really neat. It was knowing that I had the skills and the know-how to be able to go and do that and to bring it home and to sort of, I mean, it was a big deal. We all stood in the kitchen and looked, and I retold them the story and how it happened. And my daughter's super obsessed with it all. It was great. And that's what we ate. I mean, 4 dove don't go far.
No.
That's like the first quail I had. I was like,
appetizer.
Quail poppers? Is that a thing?
It was great though.
The difference between fishing, because you did spearfish, you had done that, you had acquired your own food, processed it from the ocean. Was it different from the sky, from a non-water living species?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think the first time I cleaned the bird, there may even be some pictures from that of some kind of look of horror in my face that was sort of captured in the moment of, you want me to put my hands where? You want me to put my thumb where into that and do what? And okay, well, we're going to give it a try. And it was sort of a little raw, which was different because I don't know. I mean, I'd been fish just sort of, I don't know. There was something about the birds that felt a little, little closer to an animal that might build a relationship with me.
Yeah, there is that aspect. Yeah. I mean, there's birds out there that can speak. So, you know.
Yeah. And so
those ones, though.
The fish side was a little tough. So I mean, there was a very strong emotional side of, when I learned to clean my first fish and to know I could catch fish and clean it and cook it and all of that. That was kind of always really, really neat. And so that feeling was very similar, but there was something. Primal's probably a very overused word in the space, but there was sort of something that just felt even more raw, I guess, about the bird side of it. And honestly, I mean, in a lot of ways, a bit more accessible too. I mean, to kind of go and do the fishing that we were doing. We weren't standing on the side of the bank. We were out, on a boat, and you got to know your coordinates and where you're going.
Yeah.
But
a lot bigger investment of gear and time.
Which is usually the opposite, because you'd think fishing is typically a lot more accessible, but it's all depends. What you're doing. It depends.
What type?
Yeah.
How about deer compared, which Kayla's done? So I want to hear both.
Whitetail,
I want to hear both your guys' perspective.
It was neat. So in my rabbit hole of what goes on in Texas in the upland and hunting scene, I discovered the Texas Wildlife Association's adult mentored hunt program. And so I signed up for it and ended up getting opening weekend, on this really awesome ranch down south of Uvalde. Matt Hughes and the team that puts that together, I mean, it's just remarkable. I mean, they do 18 to 24 hunts a season, and it's bringing all of these people in who've, in often cases, in my case, had never even shot a rifle before. So for me, it was about the education. It was about sort of, getting a deer and learning how to dress it and being able to take it to a processor so I could get it put in the freezer. I mean, I was so excited I bought a cooler. I mean, I was confident.
Invested,
I'm going to buy a cooler so I can get this thing home. And I'm going to buy a stand-up freezer to put in my garage. That's how confident I'm feeling.
Is a lot of commitment.
I was committed. I got the freezer, I got the cooler.
Yeah. And you're like, and I'm getting one.
I'm getting one. I'm getting one. And I mean, amazing, because they put it on. They made it very accessible. A lot of the barrier of entry to a lot of these sports is the financial commitment. And sometimes even with the means, sometimes you don't know if you're going to like it or enjoy it. And so I think there's a lot about accessibility, is just figuring out if you even like something to then figure out how you're going to invest and make it happen. So it was really neat. It was 3 hunts. The first hunt, it was great in target practice. I got it, right on in the practice. And the first hunt, I had a deer lined up, and this like overwhelming rush of emotion and, oh my gosh, what am I about to do? Can I do this? This thing, it looked at me. I thought, I'm so far away, and there's no way this thing's looking at me. But it was this rush of emotion. I'm like, oh, and I had to sit back and stop, and it didn't happen. And then I got one on the second hunt, and the third hunt I got another one. So we were good. We were on a roll after we said,
I think that's a good thing to talk about. Nobody talks about that stuff, the emotion that are attached to it.
Well, that's it. And so the first one I got, I mean, when I went down, it wasn't a great shot. I learned very quickly on the first one, you want to get as good as of a clean shot as you can, because you want it to fall where it is, and you don't want to. Cleaning a gut shot deer is not fun. So that was a very important first lesson.
You got shot?
Yeah, the first one.
Oh boy.
But then when and it didn't go too far, but I found it. We tracked it through the bush, and I saw it, and I burst into tears.
You did?
Yeah,
I cried.
I'm like,
let's get real. We all have cried. Like is that's just real?
Yeah, it was so emotional, but
what part made you cry
specifically?
What was like? Do you remember the thing? I can tell you the thing.
The thing for me was realizing that it probably had a little baby somewhere. And I had deprived a family to feed my family. That's what set me off, which could be different for different people. And I sort of I kind of have to get over that because it was a doe and it would have been at breeding age. And so, that's really what sort of set me off, was knowing that, I didn't know if it had a baby somewhere. So that was really sort of tough to get through and to move through. But, I cried for a little bit there.
Did you cry the first deer that you were part of shooting?
Yeah.
And how old were you?
8 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm of only sisters. And so I just was the only one that my dad was like, oh, you hunt? You'll do it? Okay, cool. So I'd go to deer camp with my family, but,
the Lockhart deer camp.
That's right.
Just down the
Northern
road.
Minnesota. I took I was like, I was crying before I even pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Like I was there, I was shaking, had my dad yelling at me and took the shot and I just remembered wanting to run at it right away. And my dad was like, don't effing move. Because we were in a deer stand because we were in Minnesota and it's, you just kind of wait around, a lot of waiting. But Yep. And so we waited and I got to it and I was just like panic attack. I had like a full blown panic attack with it. Like I was full on crying because it's hard to my first experience. I was so young, like I'm not emotionally developed. So my experience was definitely a lot different in that aspect of it. Cause it was a lot of emotions I didn't even know existed and I didn't know how to process.
God, it was
and it was emotions that I never even, knew how to navigate. Still probably don't. But anyways, I just remembered feeling like it was like an out of body experience and just being like super proud of myself because I did what I wanted to do. I did what I was there for, but then also being like, whoa, I just can't believe I did that. I didn't know I was capable of that.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? What is all this? And then I'm like, and then I was crying because I was like, he's going to make me have to clean this. And this is a lot bigger than me. It's going to be a lot of work. And that was all of the cycle of it.
That's like a lot of things to go through.
I was navigating a lot, but it's crazy. Like, I was still like, I can remember it so vividly. It was like, whether that's trauma or not. No, I'm just kidding. No.
I'm still working through it.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'd like to go back and clean my room now instead.
But it was something that was, I felt so connected and raw and vulnerable and all those things that you don't get experience a lot in life, especially as I get older. I appreciate those moments too, because it gives you a lot of strength mentally too and teaches you so much about what you can handle mentally and what you're capable of. And, I definitely can sympathize for the animals. Absolutely. When you said that, I've felt that too.
Yeah.
I've 100%. And I think any hunter would be kidding themselves if they haven't thought that way. Any empathetic person at least, or compassionate person would. But at the end of the day, like you still are appreciative of the animal. And my dad is a good human, has always taught us to, take a moment of silence and appreciate the kill and have a full understanding that, we don't have to do this. We, by all means, we can go to the grocery store. And he has totally taught us that as a kid. And I'm grateful for that. But he also taught us that it's not a bad thing, because a lot of people can make you feel shameful of killing animals for sure. Everyone navigates that. And there is no shame in it by all means. And I think that everyone navigates it a little bit differently. But for me, it was a full circle where I was like very sad to very happy, all those emotions wrapped into one. And it's beautiful that we're able to do something like that can give us all those emotions, because I don't think there's anything that can compare that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I think there's a couple of things. When I shot my deer, I cried.
100%.
My first deer. And I think a lot of that was one of the things that you were mentioning, Kayla, was as you walked up to this deer, there's this idea that I think in our brain, we are conditioned to avoid death.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of our survival instinct. Like we don't want to be near, around, or by death. And we have, as a society, positioned ourselves so far away from it now.
So true.
That we're not as good at dealing with it at all anymore. At one point in time when we were closer to the land, I think we were probably a little bit more accepting of death, a little bit understanding of the cycle of life and death, and had a better relationship with it than we do now. And when I shot a doe and her fawn had been nearby. And so that was definitely, I remember looking at the eye, and I remember looking at something that was so newly dead that the eye still had life in it, but the body didn't, right? And that made me, I didn't bawl, but I shed, quite a few tears. And I think, Rebecca, you said something that I think hits the nail on the head, that you deprived something of its life to feed your family and give them life. And I think there's such a healthy, I think that's probably in modern hunting. We talk about conservation, but conservation starts at some sort of foundational understanding. Conservation is something that is an act, right? It's a thing that you do, but behind that needs to be a philosophy and an impetus for the act. And I think with hunting, even a little more than fishing, even to some extent, with hunting, you are faced with our position in the world. You have a deep understanding that when you eat meat, something dies. Something goes away forever. If you take it at that level, if you look at it and you internalize and understand what's really happening, you go, something has to go away for me to be here. And I think sometimes that's the core basis of conservation, is understanding that give and take and having that real relationship with your food that is
absolutely
more healthy than getting a Big Mac in the drive-thru. That definitely won't drive conservation, a Big Mac in the drive-thru. Won't say like, oh my gosh, it's important. And now I need to give back to make space. So I think that's important for people. I always encourage people, hunt once in your life, just to get that understanding. And then you can carry that to hold the factory farm institutions, which we need, to a higher standard.
Right.
Which makes a better space.
Yeah, until you have that connection, you don't have the motivation to have that perspective, I feel like.
And fishing didn't ever give that to me, actually. I think you're right. Like fish, we don't, what is it called? Anthropomorphize
I honestly
them?
didn't have it either growing up.
Is that the word?
It might be.
Big old
Sounds
word.
like it.
And I didn't either. It wasn't until I moved to Oregon until I felt that, because I was in the culture where, rivers were closing because these fish are not returning. And that's the thing is like, it's for the most part, we're pretty fortunate that the fish are resilient and like going to come back or whatever, and they're not dying. But like, I never felt that in Minnesota ever. And I, fish warm water species growing up, and we all, we were abundance with it. And so it wasn't until I went to the Northwest until I felt that.
For salmon and for trout and particularly for salmon in specific, it's just beyond the fish, right? It's beyond
political.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but but one of the things that I finally, when it all clicked for me, was salmon for fish, conservation with fish. And it clicked for me in the idea that salmon is a critical nutrient source for
all
plants
that,
and
exactly.
all the things going up
they are
up the river.
Keystone to the environment that they live in, for sure. And that's exactly what, I witnessed it on some of the rivers I fish. I've only been in the Northwest for 8 years, but I witnessed the river dying and how it affect the entire ecosystem within where it was. And that is, you'd be blind if you wouldn't see that, and you'd be the least sympathetic person if you didn't want to advocate. That's essentially why I started being on that conservation trail was the Northwest. Rest in peace. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
Well, guys.
Anyway, we bring it back up.
Yeah, no, so, it's important.
No, it's
Out the outdoors
it's
can be
truth.
an engagement and emphasis for change.
Yes.
You killed, and I use the word killed. I do.
That's
and
fact.
then I'm like, you killed the deer and then you harvest the meat.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you've harvested this meat. You take
Do you enjoy hunting more than harvesting, or do you find beauty in both for you personally?
I'm good with the whole. I like the whole thing. To me, it's hard to have one without the other. And so even when I've gone to preserves where the whole point of spending the money that you spend there is someone else does it for you, I've always been very active.
You want the whole full circle experience.
Like can I come and help, or can I watch, or if you're not going to let me do it for some strange reason, can I have some feathers? Because,
Yeah. I relate
might
to
want to
that
use
for
them
sure.
in a fly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, for me, it feels like, that's really important to have that sort of that full cycle. So I couldn't say it's one more
Yeah,
than
you
the
can't
other.
have one without the other type of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's for sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, ooh, is
There's
it
a phone
someone?
going somewhere. I guess it must be outside. It's the peanut gallery.
Be up here?
I don't know.
Maybe? I don't know.
Whatever.
Who knows?
But
Well, we'll just keep moving.
We can just keep moving.
As long as we haven't lost the camera. I think you came, we hunted together in Wimberley, and
Yes.
then we went. I want to talk about West Texas.
Oh my gosh, can we talk about West Texas? Because it was on that hunt. You got me so pumped for West Texas, but I've been so scared because every person I ever speak to is like, "Oh, wait till you go hunt wild birds. Like, don't be surprised if you don't see them. You probably won't shoot one." I mean, everyone was they weren't trying to put me down. They were just trying to manage
Be realistic,
expectations,
yeah.
right? Really trying to manage it. I'm like, oh, this sounds difficult. But then you got me super excited about just sort of the progress of it all. And I'd already booked in to do a Bob White quail hunt with Jarrell Smith out in Georgia, and which, it turns out very different birds, very different guns, very different shells. I mean, I would have turned up with a 28 gauge and an 8 shot, which turns out in West Texas, that's not going to get you far. So
Well, it tickles them.
it tickles.
They
Like,
get
ooh,
tickled by it. They're like, oh, that's cute.
yeah, what else you got?
You're
did
new
you feel something?
You're new to town.
Yeah,
you must be
You're
new to town.
This is how conservation's gonna happen. Rebecca's here with her 8 shot. We're gonna live forever. Oh yeah. So I definitely had sort of started on that, but as I found out, it was going to be different. But I got so excited about the possibility of West Texas, and oh my gosh, it didn't disappoint.
I think I was like, you're gonna need chaps.
Yeah.
You're gonna need. We talked about a lot of gear. You did a pretty
Boots.
big gear build for that, didn't you? To come out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
5 shot. 5 shot.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 6?
It was
We were shooting
6.
It was 6 shot. Yeah.
It was 6, and it took me all season to amass enough 6 shot. Because I don't know what happened last season, but good luck trying to find any ammunition anywhere.
Yeah.
When the season's done, the shelves are full again.
Yeah, I always buy now. I start buying.
Yeah, it's a
in
good
off-season.
good idea. But
Estate
yeah,
sales, there'll be a line of just people for like the shells or
shells at the estate sale.
It's wild.
I've never bought a state shell.
No.
Yeah, when it was like over COVID, there was like a big fucking. Oh, sorry.
You're
Sorry, Matt.
fine.
But when it was on over, it was like really hard to find anything. Maybe it's just the Northwest, but
No, everywhere. Shells were
people
hard
were
to find.
cutthroat about it at
Yeah.
state sales, and I just go to state sales for other aspects. But
it's good to know.
yeah, they are there. Lots. I mean, majority of the time, I find some.
So West Texas, and this is going to be good because Kayla hasn't been to West Texas. And I keep trying to get her there.
Well, and it's
So-
funny. I've only ever done wild bird hunting, so my expectations are already low.
Wild bird hunting is a lot of walking and not a lot of birds quite often.
I was walking a lot.
Did we meet at the gauge?
And it was
Did
for
we meet in town or
Chucker.
did you come? We did.
We met
up.
at the gauge first. That was the thing. So we met at the gauge, and
West Texas
West
is
Texas.
living room basically.
yeah, super fancy. I didn't even know what was going on out there, and I get to this little town. I'm like, this is lovely. What is this place? And there's a bunch of art galleries 20 miles down that way. What's going on out here?
Yeah.
I thought we were in the desert. Oh, we are, and we're at 5,000 feet. I mean, it was high and dry out there.
Very much so. And we have a cocktail.
Yeah, had a cocktail, got the car, and then started. And so there were 4 of us. I mean, including Amber, it was 5, including you, of course. And car trained out to the ranch.
Yeah. Yeah, what was your impression? Because it's mountains.
Yeah, what's it look like?
is.
Describe it to me, because I've never been.
It is. It's mountains.
It's like high desert terrain, I'm assuming. Or,
Yeah, I guess that's the way to say it. And it looks scrubby. I mean, it looks like scrub, which I'm sort of using maybe Australian
Sharp
references
scrub.
there. But yeah, it looks
Really
like
pokey
scrub. And then you kind of really look at it You're like, oh, everything there is trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like
thought that
I'm
was just Texas.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I'm Australian. I feel like I'm right at home.
Australia,
Yeah,
actually.
I'm
That's
right at
true.
home. I'm like, oh, and you've got
Yeah,
really
don't you have,
dangerous
spiders that chase
snakes
you?
and all of that. I'm like, yeah, we got this.
Yeah.
And then sort of, pulling in and getting and sort of seeing the house up on the bluff up there. It was just really just exciting, just so exciting. And then pulled up and sort of saw the vehicles. The bird vehicle. I mean, the bird vehicles, the rigs, and they've got these, office chairs welded onto the front of the front bumpers, and then it's this multi-layer. And I took a photograph, and my sister had seen, she saw it back in Australia. She's like, "What are you hunting, dinosaurs?" I mean, that looks like a dinosaur. Yeah, look like a big Jurassic Park sort of ring. I'm like, oh, no, we're going after these little birds, and they're about, this big.
Oh,
and she's like, oh, that seems like it's,
Love that for you.
really intense there.
That's amazing.
But it was really, it was kind of cool, and it was nice and surprising and very exciting, and I'm just pumped.
How long
To
was
me-
the trip for in general?
3 nights?
Yeah,
2
Friday
days?
through Monday.
Yeah, 3 nights, 2 days. And for me, I think one of the most exciting things is people's excitement about being there, because it is an adventure.
Yeah.
And it's, it's fun when we have people here in Wimberley. I love the preserve hunt. I love getting to teach. I love getting to experience that. And that was an adventure. Like, it was muddy and rainy, and we got to do all the stuff. But it's really fun when somebody comes out and trusts you with 3 nights and 2 days of their life. Like, I'm handing
Especially
over.
never going there.
Yeah, I'm
before,
handing over, and I'm
like,
trusting that this is going to be a good time, and I'm going to enjoy myself, and I'm not going to feel like I just wasted 3 days and 2 nights.
Yeah,
a couple of days, and and it's significant. It's an investment of money to be out there too. So I'm always honored by the trust that people put in us when they come out there, and then I'm always it feeds my fire when people are excited.
Yeah.
And
Stoke.
both of you guys get really excited about things.
Oh, we gotta
you
we
guys
gotta
have
connect together.
high energy
Yes.
excitement over things.
You
know?
can definitely hear when I've hit my target.
Oh,
Which we have it on video.
Yes.
We're
I
gonna,
love
there'll
it.
be some videos
Oh
somewhere.
yeah.
We've got
There's some
really
good F-bombs
video.
on that one.
I mean, that's what makes it fun. If it's not, if you're not having fun,
cool.
what's the
Yeah.
point? Come on.
But it was great, and and I mean, I knew it was going to be hard, and my expectations were low, but we did 4 hunts. I got birds on every hunt.
That's
You did.
amazing.
I got
Good
birds
job.
on every
Congrats.
hunt,
That's awesome.
and we saw proportionately a lot of birds, but when you're running after these birds that are running, and you suddenly get to the point and you lift them, you're like,
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, okay, now I know why no one really ever hits them, because good luck,
can't
if you don't have good instinctive shooting, skills.
Well,
No, that's
where gear matters. That's where training.
Gear and training.
Spending time
Absolutely.
on the clay course, and that's where gear matters. The right footwear, having chaps, having gaiters, having a good brush jacket,
Yes.
carrying a shotgun that's light, that's 2 pounds lighter,
Yeah.
like the one you'll have next season.
Don't be doing it with your
yeah.
sporting clays gun at 8 pounds.
Yeah, all that stuff matters. And when you run, literally sometimes at a sprint,
Yes.
having a lot of that gear actually for safety is really important. But then also for the exertion of the energy to actually make that
to
pay
be able
off.
to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's worth it, all that work.
Yeah.
It's like permit fishing. It's like permit fishing.
Oh man.
Or like hustling, like
When you're-
flats permit fishing.
Yeah, like in the water.
in the
not
water.
on the boat.
Not on the
Skin-
boat.
Yeah, in the
like
water it is.
hustling.
Because man, I will say those little Mayan natives can tread water like it's their like nothing, and I'm like, this water feels like it's 20 pounds against me, and I can't run after it. And you just see the tail, like, okay, bye. Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm still
See you
casting,
soon.
and you're like, give it up.
You're like,
it's not
it's
gonna
over.
happen.
It's too late. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
gonna
gone.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
the permit,
Oh.
the permit of the birds.
Oh yes.
It's I'm gonna write a book.
Okay.
Starting tonight. The permit of the birds.
Permit of the birds.
No,
But it's the gear to be safe, but then it's also having the gear for when things go a little wrong. And you remember I need a cactus pretty solidly.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah.
She's
And we had to do some well, actually I've had a couple of good falls.
You did. You had
I did a
second fall.
real good second fall on that one. That was very bloody. That was a lot of blood on that one. But that one with I mean, I thought I'd completely, I don't know, I thought I'd split my kneecap.
You were like limping. I had to.
Yeah.
You were on my shoulder on the way down.
all the way
hill,
down. And then we
downhill,
realized there were 5 or 6 really, really deep cactus thorns that it took a
like
while.
a half inch.
Yeah.
What it was like, it just like
right
you
in
know.
and sitting
Texas.
right underneath the kneecap.
Trying to kill you.
Yeah, you guys had there was a lot of tweezers and
Oh,
anyway, but after they were all out, I'm like, oh, this is great. Let's go.
Let's go do
Yeah,
it
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Let's go. We got
Let's
another
do it
bird
again.
after, I think.
right.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did. Yeah. And then at the end, and this is kind of one of the things about celebrating that you want to talk about is it's like we had, a toast.
Yes.
Yeah,
Actually, that's my most favorite part.
Yeah, tell us about the 'cause your
So
words
this
will
is
be-
we've talked. I think we this has happened a few times, actually, all the hunts that I've done with you, and I just love it so much. But it's this juxtaposition of this sort of like really rough and out in the scrub, and cactuses are trying to take you down, and then at the very end, we're sort of like, okay, we're done. We finished our day. Let's go somewhere really beautiful because the sun's about to set. Oh, here's good. Let's pull over here. And then out comes beautiful glassware. Glassware that's real glass, that's sort of, out of the box. And then great champagne, or a bourbon or something that comes out. And then there's just this really wonderful toast out of fine glass. It's just it's this really
It's a
kind of
decompression.
luxurious sort of moment in the
and
in
you
the
just
wild.
did something with these people that you're celebrating with, and they're on the same level, and that sense of community is there, and you're cherishing that so much. And I feel like that I'm visualizing. I was there.
You can see the picture,
I can
right?
see it.
The
I'm
sun
like,
is
that
setting.
sounds nice.
They've got my little coupe with my champagne in it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's a ritual, and I think that those things are really important to both hunting and fishing, having the ritual.
Yeah, and the traditions.
It's all about the experience.
Yeah, the
for sure.
traditions and the rituals that honor the experience, and the past 8 months has been a
Yes.
drinking out of a fire hose for you, of learning all the traditions, all the rituals, all the stuff.
Well, I did another 2 hunts in West Texas after that.
Yeah,
I mean, that
that's
place
right.
has
Yeah.
got me real
Yeah.
good. That place has me real good.
It's the place.
Yeah.
I've hunted a lot of different places, and
All right, I'm sold. I'm coming.
Texas.
yeah, you
coming.
gotta do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you guys should hunt together.
I would love
in
to.
West Texas.
Yeah.
And maybe here like a time or two before
Oh, yeah.
to get ready.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm a big fan of yes.
But I think one of the things is now you're at the end of the season. Hunting season is over unless you're going turkey hunting.
Well,
And
this turkey hunting.
Yeah.
So, the season just kind of changes. So I finished upland just a couple of weeks ago, and then turkey's up, and I have a big game camp. Actually, I'm doing some more rifle and archery work next weekend.
Oh, you are.
So I'm going to go
What's
and
that about?
learn to bow hunt
Oh, cool.
next weekend. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if that's going to be my thing, but then I like spearfishing, so who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
that'll be something interesting.
Bow hunting's fun.
But I think birds in upland is sort of even after doing that's my passion point
Yeah.
for sure in the space. But and then September will be here, and we're gonna grouse. This is going to be a lot of grouse this year. Woodcock. We're going to get a couple of grouse across the north there, so I know we got some good ideas.
Maybe come fishing with us this summer.
Oh yeah,
a little bit.
fishing. Fishing is well and truly underway. I caught my first carp the other day.
Oh, I love
I
carp.
saw that.
Oh yeah, on a fly rod.
That was a nice
Yep.
carp.
Too?
Yeah.
Yep,
I live for carp. I love them.
that was cool.
They're
I
hard.
didn't
They're smart fish.
understand. And
They're way smarter than people give them credit for.
yeah, and everyone's sort of like, "Oh, they're trash fish. Why would you want to do that?" And I'm like, "Well,
They're
because,
such a challenge.
because you've never caught one. I
And
guess
they fight.
that's why
They
you think
run.
that."
They
Why would you
fight.
want to do
Yeah.
that?
They're
Yeah.
smart.
Young
I mean, they're so smart that they'll release a hormone that makes the other carp aware that there's danger involved because they'll sense it through their gallbladder. They're incredible fish. I love carp.
Yeah,
Big fan.
It was a ton of fun.
That's like catfish too. Catfish are so smart. They are an incredibly smart fish. In fact, they're one of the only fish that both they have the same thing where they release a fair amount into the water, but they also feed and communicate by sound. That croaking that they do, they transmit danger to each other.
Yeah.
with like
They'll
sound.
also eat your hand if you want to go noodling for them.
If you want to noodle, they're very
Get a little toe
friendly.
in the wire.
They're very friendly. They will eat your hand.
I did that once when I was a kid. My dad made me, and I was like, he's like, stick your hand in the hole. And I was like, it just feels like hard gums.
Do you feel like on your journey so far, have you gotten what you came from hunting and fishing so far?
Yeah.
You know?
It was evolved into a new journey, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a total beginner. There's so much that I don't even know that I don't know. I mean, I'm acutely aware of what I know.
Isn't that the
I'm
best part
acutely
about
aware
it?
of what I know that I don't know. And then there's so much more that I have no idea about. So I'm very much at the entry point. I would say, I mean, my goal was definitely to get out. I had a very specific goal to get on wild birds. That was the season. And I sort of, again, had put together a pretty specific set of experiences with people along the way. And so I accomplished that in terms of at least getting on wild birds, because now it's ruined me for a lot of other types of hunting, which, my boss said that would happen.
Yeah.
Thanks, Simon. That I knew that would happen. But it's so interesting because now that, and it's not that people never wanted to include me or invite me in other things. It's just, it's tough. And if they're not coaches or mentors or people that are in a space to be able to teach you,
right.
They start to invite you when they understand that you have capabilities. Mm-hmm. So it's funny, after I finished doing the sort of the wild hunt, I started getting a lot of calls from people saying, hey, well, what do you think? Have you ever thought about chukar? Or, there's wild chukar here, or do you want to do this? And I'm like, wow. I mean, this is now, because people are understanding there's a level of capability, but more so there's a level of willingness to learn and ask questions and sort of just really get after it. Mm-hmm. And so the doors open and you speak to one person and the next person, and it's sort of the whole world really opens up.
You find that community of it.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's exciting because again, it still is about the ability, I don't really want to go after anything that wouldn't be consumable. So that's kind of pretty important, So that's still part of it. It's not just out there for the sport at all. But, for me, what I really didn't, and this is really hard to do because there's a really important component you need to have for this, is to go and do it by yourself. Mm-hmm. So what's the one thing that you really need if you're going to go out in the woods and the bush and do it yourself?
If it's upland, you got to have a dog.
You got to have a dog. And so that was the big thing. I mean, my goal wasn't to be able to necessarily go and do it by myself, because I learned pretty early kind of need a dog. And we weren't really in that. I mean, I'm not in that space necessarily right now, but as I think about sort of the progress and I, meet dogs like Sally and Pip and Rowdy.
Perfect. I've got 3 or 4 dogs here at the ranch.
Take them.
You're getting ready to head back to the house. Why don't you just take one with you?
Take one to see how it
fits.
goes.
I mean, lose my number.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, Rowdy, he doesn't want me to leave. Yeah. So that's kind of the big thing. And I think as I start planning different seasons out, I'm going to be paying even more attention to the dogs and figuring out. I mean, we have a dog that would be, he would be so depressed and sad if I brought another dog home. So we got to navigate that. But that's a big part of figuring out how to do these things sort of by myself. But I sort of look at that as that longer term goal. So I'm very happy with what I'd set out to accomplish during this season. And I've got a ton of different pathways for what it starts to look like. And, as we're talking about things that are coming up next season, and then we're sort of talking way outside the box of how about, what is it? Ptarmigan in Alaska on skis.
Oh yeah.
I'm
okay. That's what I want to do so bad. We should do that. Like, late season ptarmigan, like in Alaska, that would be like, that's on my bucket.
Isn't it cool to find these things in the outdoors that can take you to dream of these places and things and have the community surrounded by it? It's pretty cool.
Well, they become goals. They become goals that are not.
And it's the challenge is always there. Like it never goes away. I love that about these
they're
sports.
not career goals.
No.
And they're not. They're not specific body goals, like a weight goal or a physical fitness goal.
Yeah.
It's a different type of
I don't really
goal.
know the words that are
For me, it's learning.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just this acquisition
have it
of
figured out.
Yeah, it's this sort of like acquisition of knowledge. And so, I mean, I'm consume information, and the more I can consume info that I can then take and apply and then, learn something else. That to me is sort of saying that out loud right now. That's really the thing that kind of motivates me in all of this, is learning something new and applying it, and then learning something new and applying it. I'm such a hungry learner. There's so much opportunity.
Yeah.
If you've just got to be interested.
Yep.
And that's what I want to be able to do, is help people sort of open those doors to understand what it means.
Yeah.
Like, that's the impact. So.
And willing to learn too. I mean, because that was
learn.
like one of the big things. The hold up for me was willing to learn, and we talked about this on a podcast with Kayla. The willingness to learn in outdoor spaces sometimes involves the willingness to be vulnerable and say, I don't know something.
Yes, and have no
I
ego.
have no idea.
You have
no
to leave
ego.
your ego at the door.
Check your ego at the door. Yeah. That's tough for a lot of us.
Not be afraid to fail and ask
Especially
questions. Yeah.
with your friends and your peers. Sometimes it's like, I don't know. I think for me, at least, I was afraid to look foolish for a long time in outdoor spaces.
I think that's relatable.
Invited.
Yeah.
I'd get invited by people. Let's go to deer camp. And I'm like, nah, I got a thing to do.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and listen, I've met a lot of awesome men in all of this who are going to be vulnerable and be like that. But overwhelmingly, I found hunting with women, that was kind of much more likely to happen, which is kind of why I ended up pursuing sort of a lot of this sport, around people, men or women, who were going to be a little bit more at least vulnerable about the learning and the asking questions,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just safe too.
That is safe, because that's how accidents get prevented, is being able to say, hey, tell me how to do this the right way.
No,
Not like, give
especially
me
in
that
that
boomstick. I
field.
got it all figured out.
Yeah.
This is the right end, right?
Yeah.
No, it's
Right.
not.
I
That's
put
not
I put a shell in and it's disappeared, right? I can put another one in right after it, right?
I pulled the trigger. It didn't go off. I
Yeah.
should just, keep pulling it.
But it's cool that you, specifically to you, Josh, just to send some compliments your way, but like creating these conversations in the industry is how like people start to be okay being vulnerable and stuff like that. So like the more people talk about it, the more it becomes a part of just the sport itself and the outdoor industry, which is so important, I think.
Yep. That's it.
Well, Rebecca, I am honored to be part of your journey.
I am so happy to meet you. Thanks for letting me sit and be dabbing for the day.
Dabbing for the days.
Is it September yet?
I know. So I hope that something. I have a promise for you. Yep, I got a promise that I'm going to make. So you said
And it's
something
being recorded.
early on, and it stuck in my mind that you were going to teach me everything about waxing.
No.
Oh man,
But I
have some trauma stories with waxing. Let me
have
tell
a
you
story
what.
that I'm going to teach you about waxing.
Okay.
During our teal hunt, we're going to pluck ducks.
Okay.
So-
All
Oh,
right.
It's coming
Twist.
full circle.
That's
Your career's coming back to
back
wax.
to wax.
In your hunting career, we're going to have
I
wax
love
again.
it.
So,
Okay. Well, that's actually our next hunt is teal opening
teal.
weekend.
Yep. And we're going to do a podcast after it and talk about
I'm
how
here
Waxing
for
the
this.
we wax the ducks.
Okay.
And
I love it.
Yeah. It's
till
happening.
then, thanks for being here.
That was so fun getting to know you too.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the conversation. Good times.
You too.